The Winnipeg Jets are starting to look unbeatable as they put the St. Louis Blues on the brink of elimination. Despite a few poor performances and some key players stepping up in clutch time, this team looks nasty, and we're going to talk about everything to do around the Winnipeg Jets and how are they going to shut this game out on the road in St. Louis. So you're not going to want to miss this episode of Hat-Trick HQ. And if you want to stay up to date on the latest happenings around the NHL playoffs, make sure to hit that subscribe button. We're on the road for 15,000 subscribers here. We really appreciate it. If you're not subscribed already, go down below and hit that subscribe button. But Darius, we got a lot to talk about today as the Winnipeg Jets won Game 5, putting them up 3-2 in the series against the St. Louis Blues, and a dominant victory at that, I would say. Winning this game by 2 goals, scoring 5, was really a shadow image of Game 1 where they won 5-3 as well. So it's great to see this team get back in the lead in this series and put the Blues on the brink here, and it all came from some key performances from some top players like Kyle Connor. As we look at the stars of the game here, getting first star, 1 goal, 2 assists. This guy was all over it last night, made an amazing pass on one of those assists, and he's really starting to take over for this team in a time of need where Nikolaj Ehlers has been held out of this lineup with injury. They've needed a guy to be consistent and step up consistently, and that's what we're seeing out of Kyle Connor. What are you seeing out of these guys so far? What are you seeing out of Kyle Connor so far in these first 5 games of this playoffs?
Yeah, well, we were covering the Blues just a couple of games ago, or a couple of days ago, I should say, after the last game. And, a lot of what Jets fans and the media were talking about was, I don't know if Gabe Vilardi coming back into the lineup can fix this. Well, apparently it can. Gabe Vilardi coming back into the lineup adds something, a new dynamic. It makes them more dynamic, I should say. And then Kyle Connor, I mean, he's been unbelievable this playoffs. Like, he's been the Winnipeg Jets. He's carrying this team on his back, putting up points, and not just points, scoring big goals in big moments. So again, this is a big win for the Jets. It's hard to beat the Jets in Winnipeg. It really is. The Blues have been playing well the last couple games, but it's hard to beat the Jets in Winnipeg, and they come up with another big win. There's one thing that we got to talk about that still isn't looking good. We'll get to that later in the video, but a couple other storylines from this game too. Is Mark Scheifele even going to play in Game 6? It looks like he could be injured and missing some time. So we don't really have too much of an update on that, but that could be another factor in the rest of this series. If the Jets lose another centerman, they're not really that deep down the middle, right? So that could be an issue, especially heading into Game 6 and 7 of this series, and especially moving forward as well. So once we get an update on that, we'll definitely let you guys know, but that could be another factor. But to get back to Kyle Connor, he's been unbelievable. Gabe Vilardi, again, getting him back helps. Nikolaj Ehlers is still injured, so, assuming he comes back soon too, that's just going to be another piece added to the Jets lineup to make them that much more unbeatable, scary, whatever you want to call it. So, a lot of guys are stepping up right now. We also have to give a shout out to that pairing that we've been talking about a lot. Dylan Samberg and Neil Pionk, they've been really good. Dylan Samberg was unbelievable last night. So there's a lot to like for the Jets, as you can see here, right? Samberg was absolutely unbelievable last night. So a lots to like from the Jets, but they still have one more game to win. It's going to be interesting because the Blues have been very good at home.
Yeah, I definitely did want to jump on what you mentioned there. I mean, Dylan Samberg led this team in game score last night, almost getting a 5, which is absolutely ridiculous. And Pionk then coming just third, right below him. This pairing has been so good for this team. It's one that me and you have talked about a lot here on the channel when we're talking about the Winnipeg Jets and what the key factor of their success has been. It has been this pairing. This is showing to be now maybe one of the best defensive pairings in the entire NHL, because you have Dylan Samberg, a guy who's going to shut it down defensively for you, but now in this playoffs, we're starting to see him, get involved a lot more in this offense. And then when you have a guy like Neil Pionk on your side who has such a big shot, can put it in from the point, and Samberg can hit him when he's open and let that 1T rip. I think this pairing has just been so good. Samberg has been so good defensively in the series. He's been so active with his stick, and I think defense, kind of to take a word from basketball, wins championships. I think we're kind of seeing it with the Winnipeg Jets right now with how good their defensemen have been playing. I mean, DeMelo getting a goal last night. I think a key for them in this series has been the offense from their defensemen, and it's just great to see these guys carry their success over from the regular season into the playoffs. Because last night watching that game, Darius, it was kind of like the Winnipeg Jets of the beginning of the season, where nobody could beat them. And if we can start to see that spark come into them, this team is definitely going to be unbeatable going into this last game. And I know there's one poor performance that we do want to touch on here, and I'm going to throw it over to you because, last game, you and Mark did a video. Mark called him a fraud, and he was on Fraud Watch, and I mean, Hellebuck last night having an 8-4-2, it's not really what you want to see.
No, he's still not having a good performance in this entire playoffs. He's been pulled in 2 games, like we saw in the last 2 games. And then last night he did enough to let the Jets win, but I feel like it was the offense that really carried them. They scored 5 goals again, right? Because we didn't see that the last time the Jets won. It was a 2-1 final, right? So they got 5 goals on the board. I know one was an empty netter, but they were still up by 2 late in the third, so that really helped. But he wasn't good again. Sub 900 save percentage. You have to be better in the playoffs. This is a guy that might actually, very well could win the Vezina Trophy this season, and he's not performing in the playoffs. Again, we saw it last year was an issue. This year it's becoming an issue. And this is kind of what I was talking about before the series began, where I was like, the St. Louis Blues are really bought into team defense. They play a very well-structured defensive style with all 5 skaters on the ice. And then obviously they have a very clutch goalie in net in Jordan Binnington. But the Winnipeg Jets, I'm not saying that they don't do that, but their goaltending isn't coming up big. And again, another stinker last night. Like, one of the goals there was something that you don't want to see go in, right? And he's not putting up that good of a performance. Is he a good goalie? Do I think he can get out of this? Yes, it's probably just a mental block after what happened last year, maybe even the last couple of years, heading into this series, right? If they get past the St. Louis Blues, I have no doubt that he's going to play better and he's going to find his game. But until then, I'm not sure, because again, he's having some of these performances. So I could see him letting in another, 5 goals next game, because again, the Blues have been really good on home ice. There's just something about the momentum swings in this series that have been incredible in terms of home ice. So I could see that happening again. He's got to play. I think Game 6, honestly, might be a legacy game for Connor Hellebuck in terms of playoff performance and how he performs in the playoffs, because we haven't seen it. We haven't seen it in the last little while. And again, pulled twice in this series. And last night, he did just enough to get them to win, right? It was fine. But I think that there's got to be games where you win the Jets the game, right? If you're a really good goaltender, we've seen that with goaltenders in the past, like Binnington. You have to be good enough to win games sometimes for the team. So we'll see what happens in the next one. But I think that this is something that we've all been talking about. I think Jets fans don't want to talk about it, are tired of hearing it, but we're not making it up. It's actually happening. The statistics are there. He's got to be better.
Yeah, I don't want to compare the Jets to the Leafs at all, but it kind of seems like maybe the ghosts of the first round exit are creeping in for Connor Hellebuck, and we're seeing it right now in Toronto. It's definitely not a thing that is made up. It happens. I mean, you have that in your head that, okay, we keep getting put out in the first round, we keep getting put out in the second round. It's just demoralizing and deflating to a point where it affects your play. I mean, we're seeing that in Toronto, where Auston Matthews has 2 goals in his last 14 elimination games. So it's definitely a thing that happens to players in the league, and I think maybe that's something we see with Hellebuck. But once they get over this hump and they get through the first round, all those ghosts go away, and the momentum you get for that is crazy. So I think this team just needs to get Hellebuck that next win on the road, and it would just be so much of a momentum boost for this team going forward that I don't think any team can stop them going down the road. But one sad piece of news that you did mention earlier in the video that we do got to talk about, Mark Scheifele going down with injury, and we did get some quotes from Arneal last night after the game about his status. He said they're just going to wait and see where he's at, and he'll know later tonight, and they'll see tomorrow how he is feeling. And that's what he said basically about him traveling with the team. And there was 2 big hits on Scheifele last night. One where Schenn completely blew him up in open ice, and then another one where Faksa kind of just sat him down at the blue line. And a lot of people were saying he was injured on the Schenn hit. A lot of people said it looked like maybe the Faksa hit was the one where he did get injured. And I think both hits did play factors into this injury because he took two pretty big ones. And, I mean, we got a pretty fireworks quote from our Neil after the game last night, too. He said, Jim Montgomery was adamant that Scheifele got injured on the Schenn hit and not the Faxa hit. And he said, well, I didn't know Monty got his medical degree trying to say how our player got hurt. He's way off base. I love this quote from our Neil. Obviously, it's sad news about Scheifele, and we hope that he can get back for the next game, but it's going to be interesting to see what happens here with him, but the injury did not look good at all.
No, and I'm not going to speculate which one he got hurt on. It could have been something else, and maybe it wasn't even a hit, but maybe it was the hit that kind of started everything, because the first one, I mean, it's a hard hit from Braden Schenn, and I know it's the playoffs. It was interference, right? That was pretty egregious, so I could see how he would get hurt on something like that, and then again, taking another hit, and they were targeting him all night. Maybe they know that, you know, he's dealing with something already. It seems like they were really going after him physically, and now, you know, it looks like he's paid the price a little bit, and he might miss some time. We don't know, though, right? Like, he could end up playing the next game. We know these guys, they don't like to miss any time, even if something is bothering them, is nagging them. So we'll see if he does return for game 6. But I have to say, I'm glad you brought this up, because I love it when coaches go at each other in the playoffs like this in the media. I absolutely love this stuff. So I love that this series has, first of all, been one of the most physical in the entire league, right? When you watch these games, like, big hits everywhere. Obviously, the clean ones are nice. I thought that was interference on Scheifele for sure. But, you know, I love how physical this series is. And I love it when the coaches get into it too. So this series has had absolutely everything at this point. So it's going to be crazy to see what happens in game 6 and possibly a game 7.
Yeah, it's definitely going to be an interesting one here going down the stretch. Obviously, it's going to be interesting to see what they do now is if Scheifele is out of the lineup. But game 6 in St. Louis, I think, is a must-win for the Winnipeg Jets, but I still think coming home to the Whiteout, they still got it locked up. I don't see a world where they do fumble this series. I just want to knock on wood here for all the Jets fans out there, but I do think that they are going to go away with this series. But we want to hear your guys' thoughts down below in the comment section. Who do you think's drawn in the lineup if Scheifele does stay out with injury? Let us know down below. And do you think they got it next game? We'd love to hear from you guys. But if you enjoyed the video, leave a like, subscribe to the channel. But as always, I've been your host, KC, alongside my co-host, Darius. We'll catch you in the next one.